Okay, well, great. Well, thank you for being here, Jason, with Alaska for Better Elections, and take it away.
Talk with everyone today. My name is Jason Grant. I'm the Executive Director for Alaskans for Better Elections. Quickly about myself, born and raised here in Anchorage. I live over here on the west side, over in the Jewel Lake, Sand Lake area. I've got a couple of kids at Kincaid Elementary, and my background is in the nonprofit work, and so I love talking to people who are involved with organizations who are improving the quality of life for all Alaskans. So thank you for what you guys are doing on a daily basis. Really appreciate it. Our work with Alaskans for Better Elections, similar to what Brooke said, we are also a 501c3, and so our work now is focused on the lawful implementation of these new election system reforms, but also about education and information to voters. Knowing that the ballot measure passed it was very close vote. We recognize that when we do presentations and talk with people, that there's people in a room who don't like this system or maybe voted against it, and people love the system. Big advocates of it. But for our work is really about focused on the how, the what, and the when of these new systems. And then at the end of the presentation, want to share some opportunities that our group has for grants and resources and things, so that if your organization does want to engage with your membership, with your clients, with your networks, just some easy ways that we can get you guys involved. So I'm going to share my screen and get started with the presentation. I'll try to watch the chat if there's some questions regarding just some clarification of some details of things, but happy to leave time at the end for questions on everything A to Z regarding the system. Happy to talk and be kind of transparent and want to answer everything we can. So I'll share this and we'll get started. Again, thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate taking the time to learn about this. This is, yeah, as Brooke said, coming sooner than we thought, but that's okay. As Alaskans, we're always used to changing weather or changing circumstances, and we're all in this together, and so we're adjusting as we can. So again, what I want to talk about really quickly is just briefly talk about what's been happening since ballot measure 2 passed. Talk about the two big changes that are impacting voters this election cycle, and then, as I mentioned, things that you can do and things that your organization can do to help make this election successful. Very quickly, the Citizens Initiative Ballot Measure 2 passed in 2020. Last summer and fall, there was several court cases, but the Superior Court and Supreme Court of Alaska upheld that Ballot Measure 2 is constitutional and matches up with our laws and statutes. This fall, we also went through a regulation process with Division Elections and the Department of Elections, the Division Elections and the Department of Law, just to kind of make sure that the intention of the law was matching up with what was now in the books, crossing T's, dotting I's, things like that. Where we're going, I should change this slide because it says spring and summer. We're going to be doing a lot of statewide outreach efforts combined with the division elections, but that work has been going on the last few months, especially these last few weeks. And then June, August, and November this year, all these rules that are changing are going to be in place for these elections. We often get asked what these changes were doing and why was there a problem. Well, for some people, the closed primary system was keeping them from voting how they wanted to. For the past 20 years or so, Alaska has had a closed primary system. If you've voted in a primary, you'll remember you get asked about what ballot do you want based on your party registration. About 63% of Alaskan voters actually don't affiliate themselves with one of the two major parties. And so in a closed primary system where you have to choose a ballot and you're not able to select who you would want to based on their party registration, that was excluding people from participating. We also had plurality elections, very, very common way of conducting elections, something that pretty much everyone does. It's really just whoever gets the most votes wins. In Alaska, candidates were winning without a majority of votes, though. We've had 7 governors have become elected with less than 50% of the vote, and no U.S. Senate candidate has received 50% of votes since 2002. In our state, we have a long history of third-party candidates, independent candidates, even write-in candidates. And so changing these to make sure it's reflective of how our representation will government moving forward, I think these changes will better reflect Alaskans' desires. Quickly, what are we doing when right now? As I mentioned, implementation, education process. Implementation means things like software upgrades. Just like you would upgrade your phone when something changes, we have to change the machines and the software in those ballot machines to make sure that they can do things like ranked choice voting. New tabulators were purchased. There was about 120 communities around the state who were still using hand counting when they came to election day. Ranked choice voting, you can do hand counts with. It's a little more complicated, but to make sure that the system is uniform throughout, new tabulators are purchased and things like that. The education work, hopefully this is where you get to come in as well. But our work is done entirely nonpartisan. Again, as a C3, we don't endorse candidates or endorse parties or philosophies. It's just working on making sure voters know how to use their ballot. But we do this throughout the state, different community events and presentations just like this. We're working with dozens of organizations and hundreds of individuals across the state to make sure that every region in Alaska and every voter in Alaska at least has heard about this new system, feels confident about this system, and our work is done in both a grassroots effort, things like presentations like this, but soon to be paid advertising and things that you would expect from any sort of big education campaign that impacts every voter. And we're doing this in a way that we want to hear from people on what the best resources are, trying to create different videos and handouts and webinars and presentations or anything that it takes to, we know that different people learn different ways, and we want to make sure that we can reach people in all those different manners. So would love to hear feedback from you and your groups on what that might look like. So the big changes coming to our election system this year, as mentioned, much sooner than we thought, but we've got two big changes that impact most voters. Change number one is now the open primary system that we have. An open primary system basically means that you don't have to require, it doesn't require a voter to declare their party affiliation to participate. Open primaries are used throughout the United States. I think there's 33 states now that use some sort of open primary system. You can see here on the map, Washington and California are just a little bit different color. They use something that's going to be similar to our new system here in Alaska. They use a top two nonpartisan primary. What they were finding in Washington and Oregon and continue to find really is that usually the top two means that it's two people from the same party that end up moving on to the general election. And so our system is using a top four primary system, which means the top four vote getters, regardless of their party affiliation, will move on. This is a sample ballot from the state of Alaska. You can see it looks pretty similar to what you've probably seen in the past. Names, ovals to fill in, pretty similar to what we've always used. What's different though, as I've mentioned, is that now as a nonpartisan primary, that every ballot, every Alaskan will receive the same ballot. Obviously, depending on where you live, your state senator, state representative, those will change. But how it looks and what's on it will be the same for every Alaskan. You won't have to choose a ballot. You won't have to tell the poll worker your party affiliation. Every Alaskan will receive one ballot. You'll also see one of the other changes on the bottom left-hand corner of this ballot is where the governor and lieutenant governor are together on the primary. That's a big change as well for our new election system. In the past, obviously, a governor would run separately, the lieutenant governor would run separately. The winner of each primary would then get matched up. So this system reflects a choice for governors and lieutenant governors to run together as a team much earlier than they would in the August primary. If you've seen the news, many of the gubernatorial candidates have already selected a lieutenant governor, but they have until June 1st to make that selection official. And so you might see some more announcements here in the next few weeks as more candidates are filing as well. Open primary, how does it work? All voters, as I mentioned, will receive the same ballot, and you'll select just one candidate for each race, regardless of party. So now you have the opportunity, if you're a nonpartisan or a Democrat or a Republican, you now have the ability to vote for any candidate that you like, regardless of their party affiliation. But you will just be selecting one candidate in each race. And as I said, the top four vote getters will advance to the general election. Obviously, if there's only 2 or 3 or 4 candidates in a race, all 2 or 3 or 4 of them would move on to the general election. But in many of these races already, you're seeing in the governor's race, the U.S. Senate race, there's more than 4. And so the top 4 vote getters, regardless of their party affiliation, will move on to the general election. So you could have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, those would be 4, or 1 Republican and 3 Democrats, or 2 Republicans, 1 nonpartisan, 1 Democrat, any combination. But the top four candidates would move on. You also cannot win in the primary. Let's say there's 5 of us running, and Brooke gets 55%. Well, great for Brooke, but she didn't win the primary. You can't win and be declared the winner in the primary. So again, same ballot. You vote for 1 person in each race, and then the top 4 vote getters, regardless of party affiliation, move on to the general election. So what does the general election look like? Well, that's the change number 2. We now have ranked choice general elections. Ranked choice voting allows for voters to rank candidates in order of a preference. You can rank as many as candidates as you would like, or as few candidates that you would like. If there's 4 candidates and you like 2 of them, great. If you like 4 of them, great. If you like 1 of them, great. As a voter, this is your way to show your preference in an order of all the candidates that are on the ballot. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Ranked choice voting sounds new. It sounds kind of like a unique system, and Alaska will be using it combined with an open primary. That is unique. That is we're the only state in America that will be using this sort of system. But ranked choice voting is actually used throughout the United States. The state of Maine uses it for their federal races and their statewide primaries. Many states in the South use it for overseas and military voters. 23 cities in Utah just used it for the first time this past fall. New York City used it this summer for their mayor's race. Other cities like Minneapolis, Santa Fe, San Francisco have been using it for a long time. And then countries use it as well. Australia has used it for about 100 years. Ireland uses it. Scotland uses it. It's something. It's a unique system. It's different than what most people are used to, but it's used in many different places, especially in the United States. This is a sample ballot from the state of Alaska on ranked choice voting. And at first look, you go, wow, that is a lot of bubbles. And it is. You can see here, it's got the instructions on the top, how to fill it in correctly. And then it has a race by race and all the candidates listed. I'll zoom in here in a moment so you don't have to squint. But you can see it's got candidates and it's got rows and columns of different bubbles. So if you zoom in, this is what the top would look like. Again, it has instructions there on the top. And then this is the US Senate race between bear, moose, eagle, and whale. And this person decided to vote moose first, whale second, bear third, and eagle fourth. So they decided to fill in their ballot with all 4 choices. You'll also see that there is a write-in opportunity in a 5th choice. But for this discussion and most of our discussions, we do, it's top 4 because that's the number of candidates that are actually listed. So how do you use your ballot? As you saw in the example, it's just filling in more bubbles. Step 1 is to choose your top candidate. This is the first choice candidate. This is a person that when you put your ballot in the machine, this is who will be considered your first choice. If you have a second choice, again, not required, you select another candidate. It just has to be different than your first choice candidate. So you find the name, you fill in the bubble for first choice, you find the next name, you fill in the bubble for second choice, and then so on and so forth for your third and fourth choice. Again, it just needs to be different than the other candidates, each bubble. Let me show you a few examples on what not to do, and this might help clarify it. So this is something that is not recommended. Again, you can see here the instructions on the top. And in the US Senate race, we had summer, winter, spring, and fall all running against each other. This person decided, I love winter so much that I'm going to give winter all of my choices. All of my preferences will go to winter. It might not do what this voter thinks it might do, and really kind of supercharging a vote. We do have something called one person, one vote. And this would go against that. And so you would put this in the machine. If you've ever had a ballot rejected, it happens pretty instantaneously. It says, nope, something's wrong with this. Take another look. A poll worker asks if you would like to get a replacement ballot, or again, as a voter, you have the choice you can put it back in the machine, even though it might get rejected. So in this case, whereas winter is voted for in every choice, the machine would look at it and go, okay, winter, yes, we have winter for your first choice, great. If it ever needs to go to your second choice, we don't know where that goes. And so the rest of this race on this particular part of your ballot would not work. You would get your first choice, But if it ever needs your second or third choice, you wouldn't have a say in the matter, or it wouldn't be helping Winter in another way if they get eliminated. This is something that will actually spoil this part of the ballot. You've decided, I love every candidate the same. I don't know who to select first, so I'll just give everyone my first choice. Just like in an old system, if you were filling in, more than one bubble in a race, it would spoil your ballot. And so again, you put this in the machine, it would get rejected. It doesn't know who to assign your first choice to, and so you'd have the opportunity to fix it or make adjustments with a new ballot. This is another thing that will spoil part of your ballot. You've decided, again, Winter is my first choice, but I don't like any other of the candidates, but for some reason I'm going to give Fall a fourth choice. Again, your first choice would work. The machine would recognize this as your first choice, but it wouldn't know who to assign a second or third choice to. And actually, so our statutes stipulate that if you skip 2 or more columns, the rest of that ballot is spoiled, but it would still work on your first choice. So again, here's kind of a zoomed in part of the summer, winter, spring, and fall candidates all running for US Senate. Let me do this first real quick. So it's election day. We've looked at our ballot, we've filled it in, we've gone home, we're waiting for some results to come in, and this is what it looks like. So in ranked choice voting, to be declared the winner, you need 50% plus 1. So you need that majority support of voters to be declared the winner. You can see here, this is the first round of voting. Winter and fall very close, spring third, and then summer. We must have had a really rainy summer or something because no one ranked it number 1. Well, under the old system, Winter would have been declared the winner. Winter with 33% would have been the winner in this race. You might realize that means 67% of the district voted against Winter. So Winter will be going to Juneau to represent this district, even though 2/3 of the district said we would choose someone else. But with ranked choice voting, again, you need to get 50% plus 1, that majority support of voters to be declared the winner. So how does that happen? So ranked choice voting, you look at the candidates and you say, no one's received 50%. We need to eliminate the last place candidate and distribute their choices to the other candidates based on who ranked them second. So if you ranked Summer first, Summer's now eliminated. We look at your ballot, go, who did they rank second? And we put that ballot in that person's stack. This is what it looks like. So now we've distributed the choices from the summer voters. Fall gained a little bit, winter gained a little bit, spring gained quite a lot from summer actually. But again, looking for 50% plus 1. That hasn't happened yet. So we need to eliminate one more candidate. So we look at the last place candidate, and right now it would be spring. So we look at spring's ballots and go, okay, anyone who voted for spring first, we're going to eliminate them, and we're going to move those to where they voted second. So this is what happens. So those spring voters have decided, the majority of them voted for fall as their second choice. And so a lot of them went to fall, some went to winter. But you can see here now we have a candidate who has received 50% or more of the choices from voters. So fall in this case would be declared the winner. An official winner, just like in every other race we've done in the past, can't be declared until all the votes are counted, including the early votes, absentee votes, things like that. In the state of Alaska, our statutes allow for ballots to be take up to 15 days to be received to make sure that they're counted. Ballot measure 2 didn't change any of those statutes, but it does with ranked choice voting. You do need to have all of the votes in before you can show the subsequent rounds after round 1, because you don't want to eliminate any candidate early. And that round by round vote total that I showed you, kind of the step by step, that'll be released to the public once a winner is declared from the Division of Elections. I see a hand up and some questions.
Yes, Jason, I was just going to point out that we have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
So the first one, for people who vote from home and who won't get a chance to have their ballot immediately rejected by the machine and then get to redo that, does their vote count at all if they vote for one person all 4 slots, or one of, what happens, do we know with the voting situation if someone doesn't fill out their ballot correctly?
Yeah, just like in the past, if you vote, absentee or something, the ballot curing process is obviously much harder when you vote by mail. In these circumstances, there's a signature requirement and verification that helps verify at least that through the security and integrity of our elections, that process is still in place. But with vote curing on vote by mail, there's not a lot of opportunity to change that vote. So to the question of if you voted for winter in every bubble, it would count in your first round. But if winter is eliminated and it needs to look for your second choice, it wouldn't have a second choice because now winter is technically no longer a candidate, and so it can't receive any votes.
Okay. And then do you know if they plan, it may be a little early, but do you know if there's a plan to have like a hotline? I guess people could call the clerk's office if they're confused while they're filling out their mail-in ballot. I mean, I guess you can do that already. Do you know if there's going to be any extra measures taken?
Yeah, so in the June 1st or the June 11th special regular election for Don Young, for Congressman Young's seat, is a mail-in ballot. They do have several locations around the state that they will have open for people to go in to actually vote, but it will be a mail-in ballot. In that ballot envelope, it'll have instructions on, again, how to use your primary ballot. They're hoping to also include in that mail-in ballot more instructions about ranked choice voting in the next election. So they're putting in, note cards or things like that. When people are voting in person, division elections will have posters in every booth on how to, explaining it. Obviously, they'll have it at the front counter when you check in to vote. All the voter guides will have, more detailed explanation. There'll be more public education and public campaigns around that. If you receive your ballot in the mail and you're voting absentee or early through the mail, it'll be the websites, 800 number or division elections clerk to be able to answer questions and instructions as well in that envelope as well. So I think I'd say division elections is being more proactive and trying to do more to meet people where they are, to talk about the instructions best they can with the limited resources that they have. And then that's why the education information part is so critical, especially with these early races, and that's why our group and many other groups are working hard on this.
So just to be clear, for the Congressman Young seat, for the special election for that seat, the special primary is happening June 11th by mail, but that would be folks vote for one individual or one candidate, and then the top four go through. And so the rank choice, the ballots we're talking about where there's more errors potential, wouldn't happen until the August 16th. Is it in person?
Yeah, it's a great question with the timeline, and I'll put up a slide here at the end too, just as a reminder people can look at. But correct, the June 11th primary. If you think of the primary, every primary race, you vote for one candidate in each race. In the general elections, you can rank up to 4 candidates. So even in Don Young's race, the primary, you vote for one person. There'll probably be 20 different candidates. You'll vote for one person. The top 4 will move on. The special general election for that particular race will be you'll be using ranked choice voting. It will be at the same time, the same date as the regular primary election for every other race going on in the state of Alaska, where you'll only vote for one person. So still waiting to hear from the division elections if they're going to put both races or both the special general and the regular primary on the same ballot, or if there'll be 2 separate pieces of paper. They're still kind of looking through what that looks like. I don't think they've decided yet.
Okay. And we have we have some more questions. So regarding in-person voting, will there still be only 2 spoiled ballots allowed? Just thinking of what. That suggestion that's in the chat here.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if that's changed or not, or what the limit is. I actually don't know. Yeah, if you make mistakes and need more ballots, I'm not sure if that's changed, but that's a great question. I should look into that, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so we'll hopefully get back to Jenny on that. And we've got some more questions in here, but I want to let you finish too, so maybe we'll hold some of these.
Well, it's no problem. No, if we can do something fun real quick, and I can look at the questions as well and see. But if you want, if you have a smartphone or want to do a quick mock election with us, if you open up your camera, you don't have to take a photo. But this is a really quick mock election. Don't worry, if you don't have to sign up for anything. There's no ads. There's nothing. There's no data getting captured. But open up your camera and I'll do it with you, and it should pop up a new web browser that takes you to rankedvote.com, where we will get to vote for our favorite season here in the room. And if you make a mistake, it'll tell you what mistake you made. Again, you don't have to vote for anything that you don't want to. I'm not a fan of spring right now, so I am not voting for spring in this election. But if you hit submit and then you hit preliminary results, you can see, and let's see, we're up to 7 votes. Let's see who's going to win. We're up to, if you refresh it, you can see we've got 9 votes, 11 votes. So again, the goal with ranked choice voting is that someone receives 50% plus 1, and that can happen in the first round. If it's well, obviously, if it's a 2-way race, you'll have someone win in that first round. If it's a 3-way race and one of the candidates, wasn't campaigning, wasn't well known, you might have someone receive 50% in that first round. And it looks like in our election, Summer won in the first round. You can see how that can work. Not a surprise that Summer dominates this vote, as it's almost time for more sunshine when I look at the window. But if you refresh the page one more time, you can kind of see the round by round. This is a great kind of page to look at later. You can see a round by round breakdown of what happens with your vote. You can see who won, what does a round mean, how are votes calculated. You can kind of dig in a little bit more if you'd like to on learning what that looks like. Quickly, just some of the RCV benefits that people ask us about. Again, in a 3 or 4-way race, it eliminates the spoiler effect. If you've ever had to look at your ballot and really think hard about not wanting to waste your vote, or something, people say the lesser of 2 evils. Well, this eliminates that. You can vote for and use your preference in a way that supports small party candidates or lesser known candidates, or a candidate that you really like who's talking about a particular topic. You can still vote for them without, quote unquote, wasting your vote. And so because of that, you as a voter get engaged on different issues. Campaigns now have to talk about ways to find common ground with you. They want to connect with you and try to ensure that they can get a 2nd place or a 3rd place vote from you. And so as a voter, you have a responsibility now to see the candidates in a different way than maybe just a letter next to their name. And as I mentioned, it ensures that winners are elected with the support of a true majority of voters, not the most number of 1st place votes maybe in the past, but again, as we showed, a majority of voters who support you. And so, as I mentioned, a winning coalition for candidates really requires them to have a strong 1st choice support, but that ability to earn 2nd and 3rd place votes from other candidates' supporters. And so candidates have to think differently and voters have to think differently under the system. Just to recap, and I'm glad there's time for questions, but to recap, obviously our elections are changing right now. We're doing an incredible amount of work to prepare and educate Alaskans on these changes. Change number 1 is the open primary. Again, nonpartisan open primary. You won't have to pick a ballot, and the top 4 vote getters will move on regardless of their party affiliation. And then change number 2 is the ranked choice voting in our general elections, where winners have to receive 50% plus 1, as voters get to choose their preferences, as many as they would like, up to 4. And all of this round by round release of data will be transparent and made public to all voters, or all Alaskans. We went over this before, but just at the end, just some dates for people to write down or have on their calendar. June 11th is the special primary election for Don Young's seat in Congress. That seat only lasts until January. And so this is a kind of a 5-6 month replacement seat. So this is the special primary. It'll be done by mail. August 16th will be the special general for the U.S. House race using ranked choice voting, and the regular primary election where you'll only be selecting one candidate per race. And then on November 8th, all the regular election races will be happening, and we'll be using ranked choice voting. I mentioned resources and ways that your group and you as a community leader can help. Two great resources just to kind of look at and grab and copy and paste and download from. The Division Elections website. They've got a really great FAQ on the process, how this is working, especially with the special election. They've got the sample ballots that I mentioned, that I showed, that you can download and have people even practice or just look at or just have available for people to share. They have some really great kind of 30-second commercials too about these changes. Our website, Alaskans for Better Elections, we've got details more on kind of the nuts and bolts and also some of the benefits and more detailed questions that you might have, more videos and things like that. We're also uploading many more resources here for people to what we call white labeled resources, where you can put your own logo on it, won't have our logo on it. If you want to send it out in newsletters, things pass out, have it your front counter, anything like that, those will be available as well. But we also have grant opportunities through our C3 and C4 foundation. And this is an opportunity for people to kind of a quick application process. But if your group is doing voter outreach or get out the vote, anything like that, but some of these new changes, you might not have the funding to do a big mailer to your network, or you might not have, you want to do a video or do interviews or do, a podcast or change the website or anything like that. But if you don't have the funding in your budget or something short, we now are accepting proposals for grants ranging from $5,000 to $30,000, depending on what you can do. And we connect you with our partners, our national partners, to help develop custom training and materials based on resources that you need for your group. And then we let you do what you're good at as an expert in your organization, in your field, knowledge of your membership. We talk through kind of what's best and the best way to get out this information, and let you do all the fun work with that. But again, the reason we're doing this is we know that sometimes our group or the Division Elections aren't the best messenger, or maybe not the expertise is in your hands, and we want people to be able to utilize their knowledge, their relationships, things like that, differently than what the Division Elections or our group can do. And so we've started implementing this grant work already. We've got several, I think we're up to about 10 different partners right now who are reaching out across the state and within their networks. It can be very small groups who aren't perhaps as sophisticated as some other larger nonprofits, but that doesn't matter. As long as you're fiscally able to take on grants, we can definitely find ways to help and work with you. Again, this is what we kind of ask people. So how can you help? How can you make this election successful? We've talked about what are the best resources for your family and friends or clients or coworkers. As I mentioned, sometimes people learn best by watching a video or doing a mock election or reading an article or just, cruising a website. Is there a network that you have that would like a presentation like this? Or how can you share information? Sometimes people love sharing things on social media. Sometimes people love calling into talk radio or distributing pamphlets or anything. So the best way that you can share information is what we want to be able to help with and get you, any ideas or new ideas or fun ideas, or kind of the classic, standard work that you always do, just thinking like what's best for your organization and you as an individual to get the word out. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to chat, Brooke, with everyone here. Thanks for reaching out. This is my contact information. Happy to, if you can't think of a question now or while we're talking, something else pops up and you want to ask it through email or phone, this is the best way to get a hold of me. I'll put this in the chat as well and stop sharing my screen and we can go through some Q&A.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason.
We can stop my screen.
There we go. Well, we do have some questions in the chat, so I'll just call them out. Just going off of what you were last talking about around education. The question is, are you planning any education for school-age kids? Do you know if anyone is, I know, there's been efforts in the past for Kids Vote and all of that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are working with, or had conversations with Kids Vote, talk with them. We also are trying to get into many high school student government and classes and civic classes. We've tried to do a presentation at the OSOG conference that's next month in Kodiak. And so, yeah, but if there's ideas or other connections that people want to make that we might not be thinking of, as I said, you all are the experts. We want to hear from you on places and people we can get in front of with just this information. And so, yeah, please email us if there's groups, conferences, training, things that might be interested in this. Happy to make sure that happens.
Awesome. Another question, shifting gears, is on mail-in ballots again. So do you have a sense, like, what percentage of mail-in ballots do you expect will be rejected based on, experiences of other locales or jurisdictions that have ranked choice voting, especially given like the Don Young election is mail-in? Do you have a sense that there's going to be a shift in that percentage in Alaska?
Yeah,
that this kind of education would hopefully help prevent. But
yeah, the mail-in ballot election on June 11th for the Congressman Young seat is a primary election, so it's only one vote. So you'll get a ballot with 20 different names. You only get to select one. So I think luckily from that standpoint, it's as easy as our other elections have been. A lot of names to read and kind of figure out who you want to vote for. But in terms of the process, I think what might be, I don't know if ballots will get rejected. I think they'll probably have more of a promise on the signature verification type of work. And I don't, every election, even under, the old system, there was spoiled ballots and rejected ballots, a small percentage of them. It always happens. If you've ever done election work, people circle a name as opposed to filling in the bubble, or people, scratch out the names and they think that means the other person gets their vote. And so there's always some rejected ballots. Obviously, on a new system where there's a lot to learn and a lot to explain, and getting in front of voters is tough, especially given our new accelerated timeline. I don't have a number in mind or a prediction that anything will increase or decrease. But again, that's why this work is going on. We're working with AARP to talk to older voters. We're talking with groups where English is a second language. We have a grant out to the Polynesian community of Anchorage. Working with the Alaska Black Caucus, working with underserved communities like the homeless advocacy groups in our city and state. And so and that's why again, I'm here in Anchorage and sometimes don't realize what's going out in Fairbanks or Juneau, but because of all the different great connectivity we can have, we can try to get in front of every group. So again, if you have an idea or your group feels like maybe it's being forgotten, or it's come election time, you have problems with getting people excited to vote, would love to do anything we can to make sure that people are feeling that there's work happening to get in front of every voter. And that's why it's exciting to do presentations like this and go across the state to let people know there's resources, because I think sometimes with this work people think that they're kind of on their own island, or, left to their own devices, but we're really happy to help and make sure that people feel empowered and have partners in this.
Great, thanks. Another question. I've moved since the last election. How can I make sure Alaska has my new address? So I assume that gets into the voter registration, right?
Yeah, the Division of Elections website has links on making sure, especially they were planning to get out new voter information cards to every voter because we all have new districts. Because of the redistricting, we have new Senate and new House districts, which means new letters and numbers for those. And so they were planning on getting voter information cards out to every voter. Not as early as they thought, but they're working on doing that. So the best thing to do is to go to Division Elections website. I think they've got like a big banner that says something about update your mailing address or confirm your mailing address, things like that. And so that's the number one best way to go.
And just so folks know, I did link the Division of Elections main page in the chat. And also, I believe the deadline to register to vote for this special election for Congressman Don Young's seat is May 13th. So just keeping that date in mind if you're doing any outreach in your networks or your communities. So that deadline's a little earlier than we thought. So, but and so Jason, if folks are interested in learning more about the grant opportunity and pursuing that, maybe seeing if it fits in with activities already underway in their organizations, or just what that might look like, do they just reach out directly to you using the contact information in the chat, or what's the best
please
way?
Email is the best way, and that's my phone number, that's my cell phone. And again, sometimes there's groups that hey, we're just going to send out an email or two or something. That's all we can do. But we want to make sure we're using the correct language or explaining this correctly, or we'd love a graphic and we don't have someone on staff who can do that. Happy to help in any way. That's things that we are more than happy to do and are capable of, or again, on the bigger scale going, hey, we want to do 3 in-person mock elections this summer. And, we want to make this big and we want to, get in front of every person, and we're going to do a mailer. Like we're really excited for this, but we don't have funding. We can send you the application. Again, it's relatively informal and quick. And, make sure that, you're able to do that. What you say on the application, but then we kind of just, let you do your thing and reach out to your networks. And so it's really, it can be, anything from answering just a quick question or where to go, or I just need some help on something, to we want to make this big and be a big part of this. We're happy to kind of get involved and work with people, whatever capabilities they have and where they are. Because this, as we've said, it's a heavy lift. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of information, and to make something like this successful, to make people feel confident in the system, of voting and our entire process, it's going to take a lot of people, a lot of groups across the state. And so we love partnering with people and love to hear even just feedback going, this is too complicated, or I need anything. Feedback, positive, negative, ways to help. I'm happy to kind of to chat through with that with people.
Great, thanks. And I'll just open it up for other questions that we got through those in the chat. So if any folks want to jump in.
And I know this is being recorded, but happy to share the slides with anyone too, if they want to just, if they want to go through it themselves. Happy to Brooke, I'll send it to you, and if or they can contact me and I can send it to them directly too. So I know sometimes I talk fast and it's a lot of information, and so that fire hose effect definitely can come into play. So I want to make sure that people can learn this on their own time as well.
That's great, thanks. Well, yeah, if you would send that to me, I'll be sure to send the recording and the slides out to folks who registered. So, okay. I'm not seeing any questions come in. But I was just curious, do you guys have a printable like handout available, or do you know if that's the thing? I'm just thinking, if I'm talking to somebody, I want to show them what do's and don'ts of a ballot.
Yeah, we
those
do.
kind of materials out there right now?
Yeah, we have a, kind of a one pager front and back that explains kind of, again, what you saw on the slides on what not to do and how to fill it out correctly. We've got rack cards that talk about just the three changes that are coming. We've got a tabulation, kind of the round by round, how votes are counted. We've got that one sheet. We've got an FAQ on the special election and the timeline on the special election. And we're creating more and more things kind of every day. We've got some infographics and things. So we do have some of those available. We've already printed, some of those. Obviously, I think they're still, they probably still work even given the new special election stuff. We might have to check to see if we have anything that needs to be reprinted, but people can, email us and we can send that out. I was going to mention too, we have something, we have opportunities called what we call train the trainers. If you have someone in your group who's kind of in charge for get out the vote or political action things or working with the government or just as concerned about talking to clients about this new system. We're setting up more and more. We've had several in the past, but we're setting up more opportunities for training the trainers, training your person who wants to kind of get up to speed and be the expert in your organization. And so and those are some national experts who have done ranked choice voting training across the states. Very, again, nonpartisan, just kind of the facts, how to do it. And so that opportunity exists as well. If you have someone who would be interested in that, reach out to me. We put them on the list when we email out some dates.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say just, again, consider our group just a resource to answer questions or to brainstorm with. Happy to kind of, again, customize things or do whatever. Just really want to be a partner in all of this and really appreciate the time and the questions. And hopefully I can get busy on some emails, sending out some cool resources to people soon. So thanks again for having me.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks to our partners for being here. And we'll be sure to send out materials, follow-up materials after this for those who registered for the webinar. And yeah, just thank you. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we'll give the gift of time to everyone, 10 minutes. So enjoy your mornings and we'll see you soon. Take care.